Welcome to The Video Coach. I'm your host, Andrew Murphy, and with nearly 2 decades of video experience, I'll guide you with everything I've learned along the way to help turn your passion into a thriving video career without decades of trial and error. In this episode, I chat with my wife, Ashley, about who is Andrew Murphy, the challenges in learning videography, why consistency is key, and the importance of sales and marketing in your video business. Let's dive in. Am I starting or are you starting?
You're starting. It's your podcast, mate.
Well, I'm just going to go straight into it.
Okay, go straight into it.
Do you want to ask me a question? Or?
Sure. Okay, I will start the podcast then.
Yes, we can cut all this out.
Okay, cool. So you've started a podcast, and I want to know why and why you, and what do you have to offer to your audience. So first of all, who is Andrew Murphy? And what's been your journey to getting to where you are today?
Such a big question. Should have prepared more for this. Who is Andrew Murphy? So Andrew Murphy is I don't even know what the word is anymore. I used to call myself a cinematographer. I'd say more now I am an agency owner than a cinematographer.
Yes.
Things have changed over the last 12 months. But yeah, I love making videos. I love sharing knowledge. You know, growing up, I guess in my career, I've kind of had to learn a lot of it myself, a lot of self-taught stuff. So I didn't really have someone to help me guide me in the right direction for majority of my career. So that's the whole point that I'm trying to, obviously like with YouTube and Instagram and stuff, just share the knowledge that I have to try to help people fast track their success rather than having to take, like, I've been doing it for 19 years or something. Like, instead of them taking 90 years to do what I've done, they can kind of do it in 6 months, hopefully.
Nice. That's ambitious, but I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you obviously started video, about 17, 18 years ago? And what did it look like back then? And then how, like, it's polarized now, like it's completely different, right?
Yeah. I guess when I first started making videos, I don't remember exactly why I started making them. I think I just was looking for a hobby or something to do. So grabbed mum and dad's kind of Happy Snaps camera and just started taking photos, taking little videos and stuff. I think it was just for a bit of fun. And started with the typical, macro photos, landscapes, like all the stuff that everyone starts with, avoided people as much as I possibly could. And then just kind of was really enjoying the creative process of, I guess, making photos, editing photos, just the whole thing from start to finish. And then kind of as I slowly progressed and got more and more into it, I just slowly, progressively started getting a better camera and getting a bit more equipment, and then starting to learn different aspects of, at that time it was photo and video. I don't do as much photo anymore, but I guess it kind of went hand in hand when you kind of first start, because you want to learn a bit of both. But yeah, just slowly started, getting more gear. Back then, YouTube wasn't a thing. So it wasn't like now where you get a camera, you can jump on YouTube and you can learn everything you need to know in an hour. It was like, where do I start? How do I start? What do I do?
Read the manual out of the box kind of thing.
Exactly.
But even that doesn't give you any information on what the hell you're supposed to do.
Yeah. I actually remember when I first, I think my parents bought me a camera for Christmas. It was like a 1000D, a Canon 1000D. And I remember I was so excited to use it, but I didn't know how to use it. And it was on the auto setting, and I didn't know anything about shutter or aperture or ISO or anything. And a friend came over, and I went to show him this camera. I think it was Jacob. And I was like, dude, you have to see this. Check out how good these photos are. And because we're in a dim environment upstairs, I went to take a photo, and it did because there wasn't enough light, it had to slow down the shutter. So it took this really blurry photo. And I was like, man, check this out. And I showed him, and I was like, it takes way better photos than this. This isn't. And I just didn't understand why it wasn't working. And then I think I finally figured itself out and took a decent photo. And I was like, yeah, this is what it does. And he was kind of like, okay, cool. I could just spend all this money. I just got on this camera, and it was just taking these terrible photos because I just didn't know how to use it.
And I feel like your first kind of dabble with video was kind of in the YouTube space, right? Like back in the day, I feel like I mean, because you and I've been together like with you for majority of your career, so I kind of saw that when you first started, you started by making like little vlogs around the home kind of thing.
So it started actually earlier than that. So that
Oh,
was
did you?
yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I first started just like making little like clips or like little special effects because I didn't understand like storytelling and how to make films and all that sort of stuff. It was very much like kind of like just a single shot out of a bigger project or something. So it'd be, like I want to do a shot where I don't know, like my hand catches on fire or something like that. Like just these little things. And what it was all kind of like, I guess like guided by was there was I think it's still the website now, but it's called videocopilot.net. And it's just like a After Effects kind of website. And the guy's name, Andrew Kramer, he would just make these tutorials every like week or so, and it would just be like specifically how to do a certain thing.
Mm.
And like every week I'd jump on, I'd be like, okay, this week we're going to learn this. And I'd film a little clip and I'd go through the process and I'd make the clip and then like get the end result.
That's so cool. You essentially kind of took yourself through like a little course, like your own accountability, essentially.
Yeah. So I guess actually in saying that, like obviously I've said before I didn't have much guidance going through it, but I kind of did in a way.
Mm.
Like I had this guy that was kind of like going through these little steps, and it was all free as well. Like back then, I couldn't even believe. Like I just assumed that I was like, cool, we're just making these little clips. But the amount of value he provided up front, like you can see why he's so successful now.
Yeah.
But he would just put all this good stuff out, and I think that also helped me when I got into the YouTube space because it was like I had been watching this guy's stuff for free, and he taught me so much, or basically everything I knew up until that point. And then I remember making a tutorial because I made my own effect. It was like me flying up into the sky or something. It was like from because we were watching Heroes.
We're gonna need to have that
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of inserted somewhere.
Yeah, well, sure. But
Yeah.
but I made that, and I made that myself from start to finish. I didn't follow a tutorial, and I was like, maybe I could make a tutorial to teach people how to do this because that's essentially what I've been doing. Right, I've been learning from this guy who's been showing me. So I made a tutorial. I'll have to find it. It's on Vimeo somewhere, and I want to see like how I show up and how I teach and all that sort of stuff. But that was kind of like my first, I guess, I'd step into making content to try help people.
Yeah.
And then that's where from there I kind of started making a little bit more. And then I don't remember exactly when I started going on YouTube and being like, I'm going to make whatever these episodic videos. It just, yeah, I don't remember.
I kind of remember
Mm.
because I mean you dabbled in a couple of YouTube videos when I first met you. But it was kind of more for fun kind of thing, these little videos that you would do, right? However, I specifically remember that when you first started Arise Digital, your business, it was
It
kind
wasn't
of
called Arise Digital back then.
what was Andrew Murphy Photography?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was because I remember that you just started showing up online, like even more, like on your stories and stuff like that, and you would go for walks like near your office. And
That was when it was Arise Digital, yeah.
yeah, and I feel like that's when you actually started to invest time in creating valuable content on YouTube.
Yep.
And essentially kind of just creating valuable content. So when you were starting to show up on your Instagram page and all of that sort of stuff, you would spend every Monday evening on working on your content because you had a business to run during the day. So you didn't have time to do it during the day or any other time during the week, really. And so every Monday evening was like YouTube night. And it was like you would finish work at 5 p.m. and you got straight into creating YouTube content, which was really cool. And I feel like that was your kind of step into consistency. But even prior to that, now that I'm kind of like spiraling into this like depth of my memory,
Yeah.
you did a business retreat and in Lombok. Do you remember?
Yeah, I did the daily vlog.
And you did daily vlogs.
Yeah.
And then it was when you got back from that, you were just like, I don't think I could maintain the daily vlogs, but I think I could do weekly. And then that's when you started doing your weekly show up on YouTube.
I don't even know how I did that as well.
The daily vlogs?
Yeah, because I borrowed Matt Hannum, my mate's MacBook Air, and it couldn't even play the videos that I had made. So literally,
So how did you edit
so
them?
I was editing the videos, like, I just had to kind of scrub through and would kind of roughly get to like, it would eventually show me the frame, but I couldn't play it. So I'd go through and kind of find, like, a start and an end frame, and then kind of, like, sync it up to the music, and then just had to render it out and then kind of watch it afterwards because it couldn't play it in the editing software, and it would take so long.
They
Like,
actually showed up all right though.
yeah, like, that's
Those
what I mean. I'm so
vlogs.
surprised, but it was like we would do the retreat, I would film all day, and then we'd finish it maybe like, I don't know, 4 or 5 or something. I'd go back to my hotel. I would dump all the footage. I'd start to do it. Sometimes I'd like go to dinner with everyone and bring the laptop and kind of like do some editing stuff. And then I wouldn't finish, until maybe 11 or 12 at night, sometimes like 1 a.m.
Mhm.
And then like let it render overnight and then hope in the morning that it was like okay. And if I watched it again, I could tell you like where it was like, you can see the edits aren't great
Yeah.
because I couldn't even see what I was actually doing.
But I think considering like that just goes to show that like no matter your equipment limitations or whatever, there's still no real excuse to not get content out. It may not be perfect, but it's definitely like still possible. I mean,
Yeah.
you did it on a MacBook that couldn't even process the footage that you were
Yeah.
downloading.
And it was cool as well because the people that were on the retreat, that like I was just kind of doing this and then kind of uploading. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe it was taking a while to upload. I wasn't uploading like every single day, or there was a delay or something. But I remember when I started uploading, people were like, "Oh, I saw that like video," and then people were starting to get involved because I was trying to like sneakily do it. I didn't want to try be like, "I'm gonna make a video," and everyone get involved. But then after a few people started seeing it, they were like, "Oh, that's." They wanted to kind of get a bit more involved with it, so it
Yeah.
helped. And it definitely helped me like come out of my shell a bit more and start those conversations because people were like, "Oh yeah, let's like we want to be involved with what you're creating here."
Yeah, and I feel like from then it kind of took your YouTube kind of took off in a way that you started to create content that you felt was actually going to be really helpful to people. Like it started with the vlogs and the daily content, which was great, but then you actually created a bit of a plan, right?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, not really.
We're just over here winging
Yeah,
it.
definitely winged it because I just remember like I was making because I remember saying to you, I was like, let's do like a vlog. And we'll do a weekly vlog and we'll go to these activities. And it was a good opportunity to, do like a bit of a,
That was wrapped around our date nights.
yeah. So we're
Yeah.
kind of doing date nights and we're filming it and we're trying to make little videos. And I remember actually remember when I first started that because it was like I was doing my client stuff and I wasn't, I guess my approach to doing client work is like do what you're really good at and then test outside and then kind of bring stuff that works into you. Like I don't believe in testing stuff on clients, projects
No.
because it's like the consequences are so much worse, right?
Yeah.
So I remember I was doing my client stuff with the Rise Digital and it was very cookie cutter. I kind of built this process and it was very easy to do and I wasn't really challenging myself.
Mm.
So then I was like, well, what if I start making my own stuff and I can do whatever I want? Like I can, play around with transitions and play around with different shots and test different lenses and all this stuff. And that's when we started doing the vlog. I came to you and I was like, let's do this kind of like weekly vlog series where I can just test stuff. And you'll see as well, if you watch it like through, there's just like it always changes. Like there might be a different camera or different grades
Bit
or
different intro, different way
yeah.
of transitioning footage.
Yeah, like different aspect ratios. Like
Yeah.
it just kept changing. But that was the whole thing, right? It was I needed a spot to be able to test a bunch of different stuff
Yeah.
to get my creativity back. And that's what I recommend for everyone as well. Like if you're stuck or you're a bit stagnant, like just do something different and then just try different things. But
Yeah.
don't change everything straight away.
Yeah.
Like literally just do your current process and change one thing and then see if it improves or gets worse and then change one thing and then see and then kind of use that in a way to kind of like optimize what you're doing.
That definitely flows into the work that you started to pursue after that, right? Because that work that you did was in Perth when we were living in Perth. And then we moved to the Gold Coast and you decided to put the business on hold, which then kind of started the next phase in your video journey, right? Because you started to go all in on YouTube and you wanted to put a hold on client content because you weren't happy with how things were like or how you were running things or how it was all going. So and I noticed that you obviously started stepping more into the other elements around video. Like it wasn't just about creating an epic video. It was like what else can be done so that just to make the video actually better in all aspects. So like lighting became a huge part of that. And then I know you might deny this a little bit, but you're very invested in like the sound design of video as well, and the music and how it all plays together.
Sounds
There's well, there's a testament to that with like some of our most recent work as well.
yeah,
But yeah, that kind of started, I would say, the next phase of your career where you stepped away from that client stuff, stepped more into that YouTube space and creating content that you wanted to educate other people on how to, become a videographer full time, or how to develop their video skills, how to develop their equipment, and like what to do with the equipment that they have and all that sort of stuff. Hey.
yeah. And I've always like I feel like the YouTube channel up until this point has always been around how to technically make better videos. And I realized that like obviously that is a big part of being a videographer or a freelancer, but it's not like the most important part when you start. And that's kind of like where things are starting to change now. That's why we're doing this podcast, is to obviously like help people obviously make better videos, but then everything else that is encompassed in that as well, like the business side of stuff. Because again, it's and this is the thing I hated. And I know there's so many people that are listening that are going to feel the same way. Is there's those people that are in your town, in your state, and they make the worst videos. Yet they have a booming business, and it just makes zero sense. And I remember there was so many people like that in Perth, and I was like, I just don't understand. Like my videos are 10 times worse. Not 10 times worse.
No,
my,
no.
my videos are 10 times better. Not trying to like, boost my ego here, but it was like technically the videos I was making were so much better, right?
And you're marketing yourself as a cinematographer as opposed to a videographer
Yeah.
because of the kind of equipment and knowledge that you had around that as
Yeah.
well, right?
But for me, it was like it wasn't like the more I learned technically and the better the videos got technically, there wasn't a translation from like as the technical side of things went up, the business revenue and the clients also went up.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't understand that. So I guess now that we're the last 12 months, 18 months, so we've been focusing a lot more on kind of like building systems to get in a more consistent lead flow and stuff, and understand the business side of things.
Mm.
What I've realized is that, and don't take this the wrong way, the people that are listening, but it's like for me personally, I dove heavily into the technical side of things because I didn't understand the business side of things, and I tried to compensate by making better videos to then compensate for the fact that I didn't know how to do the business side of things. That makes sense.
Your knowledge became your power in the video, really.
Yeah,
Like in the video space.
but it's not what will actually help you, make
It doesn't grow a
money.
business, really. Like
Exactly.
yeah. It's very different to, because back then when you were running Arise Digital in Perth, you ran that business mostly by word of mouth.
Yeah.
Which is incredibly impressive, by the way, because you were a really busy person. Like you always had work coming up, which was awesome. But it never got to that next level of growth. Hey.
Yeah. And it's like I wouldn't say it's easy to grow like a six-figure business, by winging it, but it is extremely possible. And the amount of people I chat to and the amount of people that are probably listening to this, they might be making, nearly at like 50, 60, 70, $100,000 a year. And literally you can do that just by winging it.
Mm.
And the whole process is like to get from 0 to 6 figures is you just have to sell something. Like it doesn't matter what it is, you just have to sell something.
Well,
And
it's the starting block, right? Like everyone has to start somewhere.
yeah, exactly. But then that's where a lot of people get capped around that 6-figure or like just before the 6-figure, because to go from 6 figures to 7 figures, you have to be able to sell something consistently. And that's where a lot of people struggle with. They don't have that consistent flow of like, if I do this, I'm going to bring in this amount of customers and this amount of leads and this amount of work and this amount of dollars. And that's where a lot of people are missing, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's not scalable.
and that's the difference between, like being able to quit your job and like confidently go, yes, I'll be able to make money to pay my bills and, pay for the equipment and all this sort of stuff, is having a system in place that's actually going to allow you to consistently bring in leads and consistently bring in clients to be able to actually have a sustainable business.
Yeah. And that's the space that you're in right now. Hey, like you've kind of gone through all these phases of starting off as, that freelance videographer who was, word of mouth and skill and all that sort of stuff to get by, to then, putting the business aside, going into the space of technicalities and helping people that way, to then bringing back the business, but coming at it from a whole different perspective, not picking up the old habits that you had, and instead being like, okay, well, I want to create something bigger, and I know I have an offering, like something that I can do that's going to really help people. Like, how can I make that more? Like, how can I bring that to people kind of thing, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
exactly. And that's literally the reason why I'm starting this podcast is, like I said, it's taken me 19 years to get to where I am today, and it doesn't need to take that long for everyone. Like if I could sit down with someone for like a week straight, like I could teach them everything I know and they could start to implement stuff straight away, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously eventually the goal is to be able to help a lot of people with this sort of stuff and fast track their process. But the main goal of this is to provide little bits of knowledge, little bits of value that people can take out and start to implement in their own business or their own career or hobby or whatever it is. And the goal is to help, people get to that six-figure mark, to be able to quit their full-time job that they're doing that they probably hate, that they don't want to do, and pursue something they actually are passionate about.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess leading into that is, I'm sure there are a lot of those people that are going to be listening to this podcast. So I think to kick it off, it'd be good to know what kind of initial tips you would have for those people coming into this space of, I want to be a full-time videographer, or, build a videography business that's scalable. What would you say are the top maybe 3 to 5? Let's go with 3 things just to get people, like, kick people off in that right direction, right? Like, obviously, as the podcast goes ahead, there's going to be like deeper conversations around this stuff. But what are 3 things, 3 tips that those people could maybe start implementing like today that could really kind of kickstart that process for them?
So I know I just talked about technical stuff doesn't really matter, but
Well, it
yeah,
has its place though.
well, you have to know how to make a video, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So before you can start anything, is just make sure you can make a video from start to finish,
Right.
and make sure that you can, repeat that process and it doesn't take super long. Like when you first start, your videos are going to take hours and hours, days and weeks to make. But the more you do it and the little tweaks you make here and there, the faster you'll get at it and the more you kind of optimize your process, right? So being able to just make videos consistently and like at scale as well is just being able to do that, with a repeatable system is what the first thing you need to do, right?
Yeah.
Once you can actually technically make the videos, that's when you need to figure out, who do you want to serve? What are the kind of videos you want to make? And that can be a process of, if you don't know what you want to do, it's just a process of elimination. So instead of going, what do I want to do what don't I want to do? So
Yeah.
it's like, test out wedding videos. And it's like, I really don't want to do that. Okay, cool. Mark that off. Let's do corporate videos. I really don't want to do that. Let's do music videos. I really don't want to do. Let's do, I don't know, small business videos. Bam. I actually really enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
By doing that, what you're doing is you're learning, like you learn a lot of different things from doing different kinds of videos, but then you can kind of find the thing that you want to do more, and it also helps you build out your portfolio as well.
Because then you're niching down into kind of like where you're really passionate about, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, at the end of the day, that's what you want to be doing. You want to do what you're passionate about. And if you're passionate about creating, videos for someone's business or creating music videos or something, like, then yeah, why not niche right down into that so that you can live that passion on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, exactly. And you want to be known for something.
Mm.
Like the problem that a lot of people make when they first get started is they're just like, I do everything. Like I make videos for anyone about anything, and that's fine. And you can wing it through that. And
It's like, I'm like, you want a video? I'm your girl. I
Yeah.
can get that done for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, you can wing your way through that, and you can make 6 figures off that. Like that's what I did when I first started. It was just like, anyone who wants a video, I'll make it. Even though I don't know how to make it, I'll just figure it out and I'll help you out, right? The problem with doing that is that you don't have like a system to go from start to finish, so it's very clunky, and you also can't guarantee results. Because like if you're doing something for the first time, it's the chance of it working and getting really good results for someone is very low, right? Because it's like you have to do it a fair amount of times to be able to build a good system that's actually going to work.
Yeah.
So, but just figuring out what you want to do, and then once you're like, I really enjoy doing this sort of thing, just do a bunch of free work. I know a lot of people don't want to hear to do a bunch of free work, but just make a bunch of videos for people that are in that space so you can build a portfolio that showcases what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because what you put out into the world is what you're going to get back. So if you're putting out wedding videos on your page and you don't want to get wedding videos, that's the wrong way to go about it. Because people are going to see it and go, oh my God, I love that. Can you do mine? And it's like, no, actually, I don't want to do wedding videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's number 2. And then the third one is, once you understand all that, is get really good at sales and get really good at marketing yourself, which is essentially sales, because you have to be able to sell yourself. Because again, and this is the problem when when you see these people in your town or your country and they make terrible videos, but they've got a booming business, they're just really good at sales because they're really good at selling whatever they do, right? Even though the product might not be great technically, they're either getting results or they're really good at selling a dream outcome to their clients, right?
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, you need to be able to, live off what your passion is and what you're trying to do. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
Something that I want to add to that kind of I guess goes a little bit deeper is something that I noticed that you did very early on in the business phase, right? So I noticed that when you stepped into the business side of things, like out of your full time job that you had at the time, and you were like, I'm going to start a business. And I wouldn't say one of the first things, but in the initial phases, something I remember you doing is checking who you were surrounding yourself with. And I think that that's a really important part of the process as well, because um, if you're surrounding yourself with people who aren't like-minded, aren't in business, don't understand, aren't really supportive, have a lot of fear around, going out on your own and all that sort of stuff, then you're going to naturally, you absorb, I guess, what's that saying around you are the average of the five people around you kind of thing. Um, you don't want to absorb that kind of energy when you're coming into this sort of space, and especially because it's quite a rigorous space as well. It's like these days, video being such a prominent part of every industry. Like everyone uses video to market their product, right?
Mm.
Or service. So I think that something important that you did was check who you were surrounding yourself with, and you like through a course that you did, you met these epic people, and then you guys went and you had like somewhat of an accountability club every Thursday morning, and now you've brought that sort of system with you when we moved to the Gold Coast, and you're like, this is something I want to create over here too. When you then went from being in the YouTube space, bringing back a Rise Digital, you were like, I need to surround myself with these people. So you brought that element over here as well. I think that's something that's been super consistent with you since you started the business thing is, the people that you surround yourself with. It's just such an important element.
Yeah. Because it's not like you find out very quickly that's a very lonely journey being like an entrepreneur. I can say that entrepreneur in quotation marks, but it's like
Well,
because
business owner, even.
yeah, people just like your average person that doesn't understand. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that are kind of got 9 to 5 jobs and you're like, working 12, 13-hour days when you first get started, they're like, why?
Mm.
Like, or they just go, oh, you're working so much, you must be making a ton of money. And then when you say you're not, they're like, well, why are you doing it? Like, they just don't understand that's a different sort of way of thinking about it. So obviously, it's a much longer time horizon. Like you might do a job and you might make $2,000 and you're like swimming in it, and then you might not make a job for a month, and then you're like stressed, and it's this big roller coaster. But if you surround yourself with people that are like-minded or doing a similar thing, when you have those tough times and you can call on them and be like, hey, we're having a bad week in the business, they might be like, I was there a week ago, I just signed a client, like everything's gonna work out, everything's gonna be better, and they can kind of give you a bit of advice
Mm.
that they are also going through, just so then you can speed up the process. Like again, going back to the whole point of this podcast, if I can help someone, speed up their process to getting to doing this full time, then that's super valuable, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if it's actually funny when I used to get really frustrated at friends when they would try to do video editing themselves, because they'd be like, oh, I try to figure this out. It took me like 3 hours. And I was like, dude, literally call me. I could have told you in like a minute how to do this. Like
Yeah.
it's the easiest thing in the world. And it would frustrate me so much, but it was like they obviously didn't want to, burden me or distract me or try just be calling me up all the time asking for help. But that's the whole thing. It's like it, for me it takes no time because I've been doing this for so long, right? And if
Yeah.
I can share that advice and get people to speed up with their process and not waste so much time, then that's definitely going to help people get there faster.
Yeah, 100%. And your time is so important, especially when you're going on this journey. Like that 3 hours to try and figure out one thing, it's like that there are so many other, probably more important elements that it involved in, running a videography business or getting started that people should be worrying about than, trying to figure out one tiny element kind of thing. And I think that's where the people you surround yourself by are so important, because you need that support, you need that accountability and all that sort of stuff. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that's a really important thing that I wanted to add to those tips.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, let's wrap this puppy up. This is the first. So this was the first episode. We're gonna look at doing somewhat of a consistent schedule. But the idea of this is obviously, again, we're trying to help people who are doing this as a hobby or potentially wanting to get started in it. Want to help you kind of get your first 5 to 10 clients and potentially take this to a full-time career. That's what I've done. I wish I had someone like myself to be able to guide me through that process and fast track it.
Mm.
So hopefully by going through these episodes and kind of like chatting about these different things with myself, with other creatives in the industry, we can share a bit of knowledge here and there to help people fast track that process.
Yeah, awesome. I think that's really exciting. Yeah, for all the episodes to come and for all the people listening.
Yeah. If you want to find out more, we don't have an Instagram page.
DM Andrew Murphy Films for now.
Yeah. If you have any questions, shoot me an Instagram on DM. Sorry, Instagram. If you have any questions, send me a DM on Instagram. That is my most active channel at the moment. At Andrew Murphy Films. And again, like if you listen to this and you got something out of it, or you have more questions that you want me to discuss on this podcast, please send me a message. I've also got a broadcast channel on Instagram I just started, which I'll be sharing resources in there again to help people kind of get their first 5 to 10 clients. But yeah, this is the start. And we'll see where it goes.
Yes. And no question is a silly question. So I'm sure that if the people are listening, if you have a question on something, there are other people listening that probably have the same question. So your question is another potential podcast episode that can really help other people in the same space. So.
Exactly right. And if you did enjoy this episode, feel free to share it with other people via whatever the channels that you can do it on. And also, if you liked it, make sure to leave a 5-star review.
Please
on
do.
Spotify or Apple Music or wherever this is you're listening to it on. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Chat to you soon.